Steno peeps, Jen back with a new dictation. Today is jury charge day. Today we're going to be working on libel and defamation. So make sure you know the difference between liable and libel. These both sound very similar, but this is libel and defamation, and at no particular speed. So set your speed controller and let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have heard the evidence in this case, and it is now your duty to determine whether the plaintiff has proven by a preponderance of the evidence that the defendant is liable for defamation. Defamation is the act of making a false statement about another person that harms their reputation. Defamation can take two forms: libel, which refers to written or published statements, and slander, which refers to spoken statements. In this case, you are considering a claim of libel. To find in favor of the plaintiff, you must determine that the plaintiff has established the following elements. 1, that the defendant made a statement about the plaintiff. 2, that the statement was published to at least one other person, meaning that someone other than the plaintiff heard or read that statement. 3, that the statement was false. Truth is an absolute defense to a claim of defamation. 4, that the statement was defamatory, meaning that it tended to harm the plaintiff's reputation by subjecting them to public hatred, contempt, ridicule, or financial injury. And 5, that the defendant acted with the required level of fault under the law. The level of fault required depends on the status of the plaintiff. If the plaintiff is a private individual, they must prove that the defendant acted with at least negligence, meaning the defendant failed to exercise reasonable care in determining whether the statement was true or false. However, if the plaintiff is a public figure or public official, they must prove that the defendant acted with actual malice, that is, with knowledge that the statement was false or with reckless disregard for the truth. If you find that the plaintiff has met all of these elements, you must then determine whether the plaintiff suffered damages as a result of the defamatory statement. Damages may include injury to reputation, emotional distress, or financial loss. In cases where the statement was made with actual malice, punitive damages may also be awarded to deter similar conduct in the future. However, if you find that the defendant has successfully proven that the statement was true or that it was a statement of opinion rather than fact, or that the statement was privileged under the law, then you must find in favor of the defendant. You must consider the evidence fairly and impartially, applying the law as I have instructed you. Your verdict must be based solely on the evidence and the law without sympathy, bias, or prejudice. Additionally, you must consider the context in which the alleged defamatory statement was made. Not all negative statements about a person constitute defamation. The law protects certain types of speech, even if they are harmful or offensive. For example, statements made in a courtroom, legislative proceeding, or official government report may be privileged and therefore not actionable as defamation. Likewise, expressions of opinion that do not assert a provable fact are generally not considered defamatory. You should also examine whether the statement at issue was made in a public forum, such as a newspaper, social media platform, or television broadcast, and whether it was intended to influence public opinion. The broader the audience, the greater the potential harm to reputation, but also the greater the public's interest in free expression. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution provides strong protections for speech, particularly speech about public officials and matters of public concern. However, these protections do not extend to knowingly false statements made with the intent to harm. As you deliberate, you must carefully weigh the credibility of witnesses, the reliability of evidence, and the circumstances surrounding the publication of the statement. Your decision must be based solely on the facts presented in this courtroom and the legal principles I have instructed you to follow. You must not be influenced by personal opinions, sympathy, or prejudice. Once you have reached a unanimous verdict, you will return to the courtroom and your foreperson will announce your decision. If you have any questions during your deliberations, you may submit them in writing to the court, and I will provide guidance as appropriate under the law. Now you may retire to the jury room to begin your deliberations. Okay, so that was a little over 6 minutes of straight dictation, 6 minutes and 4 seconds per se. So good job if you stuck that out, and be sure to keep practicing. You're doing great. I'll catch you on the next dictation.